Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara. First of all, I'm sorry if my voice sounds weird in this video. It's just I'm suffering from tonsillitis, but I have taken some medications and I hope in the upcoming days I'll get better. So guys, in this video I would like to talk about Ichigo's mode Horn of Salvation. I won't talk much about strength of this mode as much as I will talk about the context in which it came, as well as some aspects to some small but to me important, and show how important this mode is. This mode was activated by Ichigo during his fight against Yhwach, so that we can put all these events that Ichigo had with Yhwach under the title The Son Who Was Born in Darkness. And this title was repeated by Kubo in some chapters as well as Yhwach. If you have noticed, the beginning of the final fight between Yhwach and Ichigo began in chapter 672. This is a chapter that many agree on that is the chapter in which Kubo decided to officially end the manga, because in it Yhwach saw the vision in which he saw Ichigo defeating him by the real Shikai Zangetsu. But on the other hand, that chapter was analogous to chapter 514, because the title of chapter 672 is Son of Darkness and chapter 514 is Born in Dark. The two titles go in the same context, which is Ichigo was born in the darkness, but there is something strange in these two chapters. Chapters 514 was the end of the fight between Ichigo and Yhwach, and also that fight was their first meeting. Chapter 672 is the beginning of the final fight between Ichigo and Yhwach, and in chapter 514 Yhwach hinted to Ichigo that he has a power other than the power he knows, and that there is a mysterious secret about his mother that he doesn't know. That chapter was the beginning of Ichigo's journey to find out his true powers. And Ichigo in that chapter was psychologically shaken. He didn't know who he was and what was going inside him and also around him. While in chapter 672, Ichigo, the boy who was born in the darkness, has become different. Now he knows who he is and what strength that he possesses, and he became aware of the fact that the person who will confront him has a part of him inside him. More than that, he is the person who killed his mother. And based on these facts, Yhwach started his conversation with Ichigo as they prepared themselves to fight. On the other hand, that chapter was one of the strongest chapters in which Kubo demonstrated his intention to conclude the story by making Inoue Orihime with Ichigo. Inoue Orihime has always considered herself useless to Ichigo. She was even jealous from Rukia being the one who always motivates Ichigo when he is frustrated and suffering internally. She always wanted to be Ichigo's supporter, but in this chapter it became clear that she got more than that. Rukia is also considered a supporter of Ichigo, but in the end she was just a close friend to Ichigo. As for Inoue Orihime, in those chapters it was clear that Kubo was preparing her to be Ichigo's wife and supporter. The next chapter was going in the same vein as chapter 672. Yhwach has confirmed that Ichigo is his son, his long-awaited son, and Isshin and Masaki were only two characters created by fate so that you, Ichigo, would be born in the darkness for me. Ichigo didn't believe these words. He believed in one thing: who was before him was his mother's murder, and the incident of Masaki's murder I had previously talked about it in a long video, and I have made it clear how it was one of the main essences of the Bleach story. The incident of Masaki murder was discussed in volume 3, and most of its details were revealed in volume 60, and the convergence of all the lines of that incident was at the end of the last fight of the story: Ichigo, the son of Masaki, against her killer, Yhwach. On the other hand, Orihime was providing support to Ichigo. Rather, she showed that her strength was no longer the same as before. In the midst of Ichigo's fight, she was stopping some of Yhwach's attacks, and this is something that Orihime wasn't used to do in the past. In most of Ichigo's fights, she was the one that Ichigo should protect. Even worse, she had a certain phobia from Ichigo. She was afraid of his hollow powers, and she was terrified when Ichigo looked at her for the first time with the mask while fighting Grimijo. And you know the shock she felt when Ichigo awakened his full power in front of Illichura. And all these memories were about to flood again in front of her eyes as she was seeing Ichigo transforming into a new mode, Horn of Salvation. Kobo concluded chapter 675 by Ichigo transforming into that mode, and chapter 676 began with one of the most beautiful scenes, especially in terms of drawing. How Kobo drew Orihimi's face features, how she was waiting for Ichigo's response. That horn, those black stripes, that horrifying Ryatsu that pervaded the place. Is it Ichigo or that monster? Orihimi's gaze summed up her feelings at that moment, but Ichigo's turning towards her with that smile and how he addressed her with the word "you" saved her from all those fears she was living in. Kobo had called the mode of Ichigo the Horn of Salvation because it was a salvation for Ichigo from his long struggle to control his powers, as well as a salvation for Inoue Orihime from the past she lived with Ichigo's hollow powers. For all of this, I would have liked to see a lot of it. I would have liked to see the Horn of Salvation in the middle of the final arc, and not at the end, because Ichigo himself had confirmed that he still hadn't mastered it enough. Yet we saw the destructive power of the Horn of Salvation, especially since Ichigo was fighting with both of his power, the Osan Zangetsu and Shirosaki. And this power, I wanted to see it in front of strong opponents before confronting Yhwach. Because if Ichigo had enough time where he can fight by that mode, it would enable us to see other scenes of the Osan Zangetsu as well as Shirosaki after Ichigo became aware of his full powers. Of course, the main problem that would have been if Ichigo released the mode in the middle of the final arc is who are the characters able to fight him without being killed in the first seconds of the fight. We saw how he was lenient with the Quincy girls in his first appearance after returning from the Royal Pass. One new Getsuga Tensho was enough to cut the arm of Candice. For all of this, I do think Ichigo needed a good fight with a good opponent before the final fight against Yhwach, and the best choice would have been against one of the elite gods like Girard or Iribaro or someone like that. For you guys, what do you think? Did Ichigo really need a long fight before fighting Yhwach or not? Tell me in the comments guys, and see you in my next video.